Ja, liebe Gäste, liebe Investoren und auch Aktionäre, ich darf Sie ganz herzlich begrüßen heute zu unserem zweiten Webinar von Group 10 Metals. Und im Namen von Axino freue ich mich sehr, dass Sie heute da sind. Es ist 18 Uhr. Wir denken eine Zeit, wo man noch am Bildschirm sitzen kann, so kurz vor der Tagesschau sind wir dann hoffentlich auch dann fertig. Wir sind natürlich stolz, heute den Batteriemetalle Explorer, nennen wir ihn, Group 10 Metals, Ihnen zu präsentieren, der aus Kanada stammt. Das Projekt ist die Stillwater West Mine hier in Montana, USA. Und wir hoffen, dass es heute noch besser läuft mit der Einbindung technischer Art. Sie können nur zuhören und zuhören. Wir werden dann nach der 20-minütigen Präsentation noch eine Frage- und Antwort-Session haben. Scheuen Sie sich nicht, die Fragen zu stellen, gerne auch auf Deutsch. Ich kann das hoffentlich dann auch etwas übersetzen und mit dem Mike dann entsprechend beantworten. Unsere Gäste sind, wie gesagt, Michael Rowley. Er ist Präsident und CEO der Gesellschaft, mir persönlich seit vielen Jahren bekannt. Der Chairman der Gesellschaft, der sogenannte Greg Johnson, ist schon ein absoluter Kenner, auch in diesem Rohstoffsektor. Mit ihm war ich vor 15 Jahren bereits schon unterwegs mit der Präsentation von Novagold hier in Europa. Sehr erfolgreich. Von vorne an, ich darf Sie noch hinweisen auf unseren Disclaimer. Wir von der Axino Unternehmensgruppe sind natürlich keine Platzierungsagenten und Vermittlungsakteure, sondern wir sind zum einen Investor und auch Kommunikationsdienstleister. Alle Aussagen, die wir hier treffen, sind keine Aufforderung zum Kauf. Das steht auch hier im Disclaimer drin. Und sie handeln auf eigene Rechnung und auf eigene Verantwortung. Nach den MiFID-Regularien müssen wir Konflikte offenlegen, was ich hiermit tue. Es handelt sich hier um zwei Konflikte. Zum einen sind wir Aktionär von Group 10 Metals. Das ist, wie gesagt, wichtig für Sie zu wissen. Zum anderen haben wir einen Kommunikationsdienstleistungsvertrag mit der Gesellschaft, mit dem Explorer Group 10 Metals. Ja, es geht heute wieder in unserer Rubrik Stocks to Perform. Sie wissen ja, wir suchen Unternehmen, wo wir glauben, da kann man damit Geld verdienen. Deswegen investieren wir auch unser eigenes Kapital. Heute sind wir in der Batteriemetallbranche. Mit Group 10 Metals haben wir sicherlich hier einen sehr aussichtsreichen Explorer. Sie finden auch weitere Informationen auf Deutsch unter axinocapital.de/group. Wir haben es so gehandhabt, bei allen Firmen, die wir repräsentieren, ist immer der erste Namensteil in der Firmierung quasi der kurze Link zu unseren Informationen. Sie finden dort natürlich alle Artikel, die wir machen auf Deutsch. Sie finden die Unternehmenspräsentationen, CEO-Interviews, andere Arten von Videos, aber auch die ganzen Twitter-Publikationen. Also alles, was für Sie als Investoren wichtig ist, um das Unternehmen transparent zu machen. Ich möchte noch erwähnen, dass die Group 10 Metals ein Teil dieser Metallic Group of Companies ist, ein Zusammenschluss von diesen drei Gesellschaften, die Sie unten sehen. Als nächstes werden wir die Granite Creek noch präsentieren, nächste Woche, und in der Folgewoche dann noch die Metallic Minerals. Der Mike wird uns nachher die Vorzüge dieses Verbundes natürlich noch erläutern, und da bin ich dann auch sehr erfreut, wenn er Ihnen noch da erklärt, was denn eigentlich hinter dieser Strategie steckt. Die heutigen Themen sind ganz klar die Vorteile und auch das Konzept des Verbundes, das habe ich ja gerade schon gesagt, aber auch die Vorstellung des Projektportfolios und auch die Strategie von einer Group 10 Metals. Wir reden über Stillwater West und warum das ein sogenanntes Company-Making Asset ist. Und nicht zuletzt wollen wir auch beleuchten, welche Vorteile es gibt, wenn man in der Nachbarschaft schon einen Minenbetreiber hat. Die Stillwater ist ja hier aktiv und das hat sicherlich auch riesige Vorteile. Dann glaube ich, wird der Mike auch noch uns allen erklären, warum mächtige Vererzungszonen so wichtig sind. Ja, also nicht nur 2-3 Meter dünne Venen, sondern wirklich über auch teilweise hunderte von Metern Vererzungsschichten, wenn man die anderen, welche Vorzüge daraus zu ziehen sind. Er wird sicherlich auch die Ressourcenschätzung, nämlich die erste Ressourcenschätzung, ansprechen. Es ist schon beachtlich, wir haben jetzt sogar im Vorgespräch noch geklärt, was ist denn eigentlich so das alles umgerechnet in Unzen von Gold, was er hier publiziert hat. Und ich kann Ihnen schon sagen, es ist eine sehr, sehr stattliche Summe, aber ich möchte hier nicht vorgreifen. Dann wird er sicherlich noch erläutern über das Bohrprogramm 2021. Es sind noch nicht alle Bohrergebnisse da von diesem Sommerbohrprogramm und da gibt es sicherlich einiges noch zu berichten. Und dann wird er noch natürlich einen Ausblick geben auf 2022. Wir haben hier noch kurz ein Porträt in unserem Investorenmagazin Stocks to Perform. Laden Sie sich die Broschüre runter, schauen Sie sich kurz den Überblick an, so können Sie vielleicht mal eintauchen in Group 10 Metals. Jetzt starten wir noch ganz kurz ein Video, damit Sie so schön auch sanft reinkommen in die Unternehmenspräsentation, die dann natürlich auf Englisch sein wird. Und Sie kriegen das ein oder andere an Bildchen gezeigt, auch vom Projekt. Ich kann Ihnen sagen, unser Videoteam war ja vor Ort. 2019 wurde doch sehr umfangreich ein Projektvideo erstellt. Das finden Sie sicherlich auch bei uns noch auf dem YouTube-Kanal unter der Liste von Group 10 Metals. So, jetzt starte ich den Video und bitte genießen Sie die Eindrücke.
Group 10 Metals is advancing its world-class battery and platinum group metals project in Montana as a major U.S. source of commodities essential to the green revolution. Stillwater West currently hosts over 1 billion pounds of battery-grade nickel, copper, and cobalt, plus over 2 million ounces of platinum, palladium, rhodium, and gold. For more about the company's 2021 resource estimate and near-term expansion strategy, visit group10metals.com.
So, zu guter Letzt darf ich jetzt noch erwähnen, auf axinocapital finden Sie diese Informationen. Das Investor Booklet habe ich auch schon genannt. Ich freue mich auf die Präsentation von Michael Rowley und ich bedanke mich schon mal für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit. Jetzt wechseln wir kurz das Hosting. Er übernimmt. Ganz kleinen Moment bitte.
Well, danke. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us. I will indeed be relating our new resources at Stillwater West, the excitement we have around them, and most of all, the expansion potential that we see. Wolfgang has already done a fine job on this slide, but this presents the metallic group of companies, 3 independent companies, and basically a similar way of doing business between them. District scale assets acquired in the bear market and then advance them in an improving market with a great team. Everything we do is done with 100% ownership and view to a deal, a big deal with a major miner, for example. For Group 10, this means 3 district scale assets. The Stillwater project is very much the focus, more than ever now, and especially in light of recent success. That's basically everything we'll talk about today. In Ontario, we have the high-grade gold Black Lake Drayton project. We recently announced a deal effectively for the sale of this to a new startup gold company called Heritage Mining. They have to invest $5 million over the course of 4 years. We get a 10% carried interest, a healthy share position in them, and also a bonus schedule based on discoveries made by them on the project. We're very excited about that. And the Klawani project in the Yukon, this adjoins Nickel Creek Platinum, also a district scale land position. In each case, we have 100% ownership on all projects, and we see the potential for world-class discoveries. The focus, again, is on Stillwater. The team is excellent. Wolfgang touched on the name Greg Johnson. He was a founder of Nova Gold and saw Nova Gold from 10 cents a share to 2 billion in market cap. And that was done on large land positions, 10-kilometer soil anomalies, built out with a good team into an improving market. And that's exactly what we're doing in all 3 metallic group companies, and especially here at Group 10. Myself, I'm a founder of the company. I've been in mining since 1990 and since exploration since 2002. And earlier this year, we attracted Gordon Toll to the board, and that's worth calling out because he is the past deputy chairman of Ivanhoe. He's also the past chairman of Fortescue Minerals. Fortescue, of course, is one of the bidders for the Noront district in Ontario, which I'll touch on in a minute here. Good bidding war for a nickel district. Gordon is a mine engineer who has added an MBA to that, and he's raised over $5 billion for some very large projects around the world. On the technical team, we have Dr. Craig Bowe, who is a recognized worldwide expert in these ultramafic systems. And we have 2 fellows, Mike Austenson and Justin Modreau. that have 20 years of experience in the Stillwater District. Mike Austenson drilled the core that we inherited with the project, that we've reunited with the project. And that's a huge plus when you're building a resource and bringing a new geologic model. Justin Madru is the vendor of the project, and he is the reason that Group 10 came to own half of such a world-renowned district. Justin is local, and he spotted the opportunity and acted on it. Last on the technical persons page, we have this marvelous quote from Dr. David Broughton, who is Robert Friedland's right-hand man in the flat reef. The recognition of a flat reef setting in the Stillwater District is an exciting development, and that was 3 years ago in the early days of this project for us. David is credited as co-discovering Ivanhoe's Platte Reef deposit, and this was very meaningful for us to get him to Stillwater and get that endorsement. Okay, the resource estimates that we just released in October of 2021. In the base case assessment at a 0.2% nickel equivalent cutoff, this is a little over 1/2 gram palladium equivalent cutoff, we have 157 million tons at 0.45% nickel equivalent grade. As a palladium equivalent grade, that's 1.2 grams. Contained metal is significant. It's a healthy debut. 700 million pounds of nickel, 347 million pounds of copper, 1.3 million ounces palladium, good amounts of cobalt, platinum, rhodium, and gold along with that. And that adds up to, my clicker isn't working, a total of 1.1 billion pounds of battery metals, 2.4 million ounces of precious metals as PGE and gold. If you look at those in strict equivalence terms, that's equivalent to 1.6 billion pounds of nickel or 6 million ounces of palladium. So that's a very robust debut, especially for a company that's only done 2 drill programs that were included in these numbers. A third drill program that we did this year is not yet included in these numbers and is the expansion that we're planning for next year. To put this in gold equivalent terms, that 6 million ounce palladium equivalent becomes something like 6.8 million ounces of gold. Just to help those who aren't used to thinking in terms of palladium and nickel. We also ran a higher grade cutoff. So at a 0.35% nickel equivalent cutoff, which is nearly a gram palladium equivalent, we still have almost 100 million tons and a significant inventory of battery and precious metals. Nearly 900 million pounds of battery metals and 1.8 million ounces of PGEs and gold. The importance here is that this deflects the mine model that you might apply to these deposits. At a 0.2% nickel equivalent cutoff, you're using a very bulk mining method, which might be a pit or block cave underground at a big scale. As you go to a 0.35% nickel equivalent cutoff, you're getting to more of an underground mining model. And we have the optionality to do either one at Stillwater. Good continuity in the mineralization, and in fact, the models hold together even at a 0.5% nickel equivalent. So that's the debut. It's a robust debut that puts us very nicely at the upper end of a lot of our peers. The expansion potential is the next part of the story. This is a famously metal-rich district with over 100 million ounces of the highest grade palladium platinum in the world already. We've got terrific expansion potential. This is basically 5 deposits across 9 kilometers that want to connect, and that sits within 32 kilometers of land package that looks highly prospective. And on that note of expansion, all of 14 holes that we drilled just recently are assays pending. And visual basis, we saw some very good looking core that we think we've already expanded these deposits. We'll do that as quick as possible in 2021. We have a very compelling blend, and it's a rare blend in the world, of in-demand commodities. Heavy on the green metals, being palladium, platinum, rhodium, nickel, copper, cobalt, and also gold. So by value, we're over 40% nickel by value, over 20% palladium. In third place is copper and cobalt, both sort of 11 and 12%. And then gold, platinum, and palladium round that out. The objective here is to become a primary US-based source of both battery and precious metals. And 5 of these commodities have been listed as critical by the US government. They've just recently put nickel back on the list. They're looking at it. And they've added chrome as well, which is one that we have that's not mentioned here. And the location, of course. We're in a famously productive district in America beside 3 producing mines and a smelter. And that has to be beneficial for Group 10. Nickel demand is rapidly increasing. We're seeing greater nickel use in electric cars, of course, in batteries, and then increasing demand for those cars. So overall, the nickel demand is expected to increase 15.6 times coming into 2030, copper 10 times, cobalt 3 times. Very beneficial to us as we have all 3 in an American jurisdiction. These charts are in the deck on the website. I'm going to move fairly quickly through them, but please do feel free to review on your own time and ask any questions. All that means that nickel is expected to, the demand is expected to exceed supply by the year 2026. And a number of more recent studies have suggested that could be as soon as 2023, given the increasing demand for electric cars. Nickel sulfate is very much the focus, and we of course at Stillwater have the nickel sulfide that converts very cleanly to the nickel sulfate that they use in batteries. This is a key point because 2/3 of the world's nickel is mined from laterite deposits in New Caledonia and Indonesia, and it takes a very dirty process, HPAL, to arrive at a battery grade nickel product. Ironically, that imparts a much larger environmental footprint on the nickel product. Mining nickel sulfide in the US would move much more cleanly to the nickel they need for batteries, and we have that at Stillwater. The PGEs, of course, palladium and rhodium have gone crazy in recent years, and that's due to supply-demand imbalances. We're looking for platinum to follow that as well. Platinum is the preferred catalyst for cracking water with electricity to make truly green hydrogen. It's also the preferred catalyst to consume that hydrogen in a fuel cell vehicle. We're seeing mining haul trucks, for example, go fuel cell. Anglo American's whole fleet is going to convert based on some trials they've been doing in the past few years. Trains and other heavy machinery, possibly long haul trucks, are all looking at fuel cell applications, and this is very compelling for the platinum market. Copper, I expect you're all familiar with. I'll just touch on it. It is, of course, the metal of the electrification age. And interesting to call out that Goldman Sachs here recently tweaked their price projection from sort of falling off slightly to soaring, and that's based on that demand. We're happy to have all of these in Montana in a past producing district that's well equipped. Take a look at the district. We share the Stillwater Igneous Complex with Sibanye-Stillwater. Sibanye, of course, bought the Stillwater mines in 2017 for $2.2 billion and did very well by doing that. We were just acquiring the ground you see in yellow at that time. The district is known for the JM Reef deposit. This is over 100 million ounces in that purple line there, 40 kilometers long, 1.8 meters thick, dipping into your computer screen from the way we see it here. Open at depth, the highest grade palladium platinum mine deposit in the world. Also produces nickel, copper, gold, silver, rhodium, and the lesser PGEs as well. They run 3 mines on that one deposit, and they have a smelter facility that's just off the screen to the northeast. We are focused in the lower portion of that magmatic layer cake at Stillwater. The upper portion in green is known for reef type deposits. You can basically think of these as being like veins. They're narrow, higher grade. In the lower portions, bigger magmatic events have come in, brought new metal, churned everything up, and you get these big disseminated net textured sulfide deposits. Copper nickel sulfide base, PGEs on top of that. That's the correct setting for Ivanhoe's Platreef mine and Anglo American's Mahalaquena, for example. We'll take a cross-sectional look through that red line there, slice the rocks, and see what that looks like. So there's the green where the bands are visible. There's our neighbor's mine right in the middle of the page. That's the JM Reef deposit. Our picket pin above them, and then our focus on the oranges, purples, and blues in the lower part of the system. Reefs on top, plat reefs on bottom. This was speculated for years in technical papers. It just simply wasn't really brought home at Stillwater. Even the Wikipedia page calls out the similarities between Stillwater and Bushveld. So we're simply the ones that have been in the right place with the right model and blessed with a large amount of historic data to pull together and effectively model this bulk mining scenario at Stillwater. So our targets are big bulk mineable sulfide copper nickel systems with PGEs, and you've got up here the early deposits, 3 of the deposits we just debuted back in October. Our job now is to get to work expanding those. Just for reference, the Platte Reef District hosts 400 million ounces in total, tens of billions of pounds nickel and copper. Anglo American's Mahalaquena deposit is 265 million ounces. Ivanhoe's is 112 million ounces. These are very large systems. This is probably the most important slide in the deck. This presents the deposits as announced in October, alongside the IP anomalies that demonstrate their expansion. In pink, you have the chargeability response at a very high level cutoff, and in blue, the conductivity response. As you can see, they're basically continuous across 9 kilometers, large, very robust responses, and they show a beautiful correlation with the drill-defined deposit areas in yellow. So these effectively appear to want to connect across that 9 kilometers. They're open beside each deposit, they're open at depth, and the best part of the story here is that we've only used 83 of our drill holes to define the areas you see in yellow. We have further 133 holes that are not accounted for here and give us very good early indications of what's in the rocks outside of the deposit areas. So we see terrific expansion potential here, even in the core 9 kilometers of the project. It's worth noting that this red line up here is the surface projection of our neighbor's deposit. So that is the 100 million ounce reef deposit now being mined by Sibanye. They are mining about 2 kilometers down just up here. They've expressed interest in battery metals in North America. They're actually making acquisitions currently and in the past year. And of course, our work at Chrome Mountain sits just within a kilometer of them, really. Terrific expansion potential. With this year, we finished the survey off in this end. We filled in some of the gaps up here, and you'll see that in news releases shortly. We drilled a total of 14 holes. We drilled 6 at Chrome Mountain, 2 at CZ, and 6 at HGR. And those will be represented in the next slide. This is soil geochemistry. This is copper nickel in soil, and we're zoomed in here on that core 9 kilometer portion of the project, the center that is the most advanced. The black dots are the drill pads of holes we drilled this year. You can see the 6 at HGR, the 2 at CZ, and 6 holes on 3 pads at the Chrome area. The dotted outlines are the deposits projected themselves. And you can see how these 4 here over at Iron Mountain really do look like they want to connect across that Peridotite Zone, which is the PZ on that side, and similarly over here. I think on a visual basis, we had great success filling in this area between DR and hybrid. And we're looking forward to reporting those results in the coming week and ultimately expanding these resources as fast as we can build new models in the new year. Final point on this slide, I guess, is that Peridotite Zone is the most highly prospective band, and you can see how well the soils track that. In addition, we've got some areas that are barely tested and look great for expansion. Very high levels of nickel and copper in the soils right there, with one historic hole on the edge giving a partial test. Similarly, these holes sitting out here, they light the way very nicely for us in expanding this in this project. Very similar slide. This one presents precious metals in soils. Hybrid unit lights up terrifically, and that area of that historic hole also does. Lots of room to grow. Worth calling out the pine target. Not one we've talked about today so far. This is an area of drill-defined high-grade gold mineralization. It's an informal resource of perhaps 250,000 ounces gold, perhaps 8 grams per ton grade. We had hoped to debut that this year with the others. It's not there yet. We've done good work towards expanding, understanding the geology there, and we look forward to drilling that in subsequent years. For this year, we did that IP survey and detailed the pine area, and we expect that to drive future programs there very nicely. Last slide showing the resources. This one is conductivity, same base map. The purple areas are highly conductive, and as you can see, things like the historic CZ area was an easy target for them in the 60s. It outcrops and it's conductive. The area to the north has never been tested, and that presents terrific expansion potential for us. As we know, a lot of these rocks are nickel copper sulfide with PGEs. It's also worth noting that the CZ area saw a lot of attention from AMAX mining in the 60s and 70s. They did some excellent preliminary metallurgy work there that showed good recoveries of nickel as sulfide and good recoveries of precious metals, PGEs, in that work. So we're optimistic that the metallurgy here is favorable, and we're looking forward to detailing that ourselves in coming programs. Oops. More broadly across the project, we have a total of 32 kilometers of lower Stillwater complex strike. You're seeing 25 of it here. There's that 9 kilometer core area that is the most advanced area. We have a number of good targets outboard to that. We're currently focused on growing the deposit areas primarily. The objective there is to get the share price up, get the value up before we get into the earlier stage targets. But it certainly has room to grow. Last technical slide, I believe. This is the soils across the entire project. We see a large number of very high-grade soils for us to follow up on. Interesting that we've got high-grade gold in soil up to 2 kilometers west of drill-defined high-grade gold at the Pine. This could potentially be a gold system of size, and we're interested in chasing that out in the coming years. The potential at depth is very real here. This is an MVI, magnetic vector inversion model that we ran. This was very successful on Ivanhoe's project in the Platte Reef District in identifying expansions of their deposit. Here at Stillwater, it shows terrific depth potential. We've cut it off at 2 kilometers depth for this image, but beneath Chrome Mountain, we see things reaching down 6 kilometers that may even be feeder zones. And that's starting to fit with what we're seeing in drill results at Chrome Mountain as well, and intrusive dunites possibly. So this gets very interesting if you're talking about feeder zones to the whole Stillwater complex. And we look forward to reporting more on that. We certainly have room to grow this. Made the initial acquisition in 2017, quickly got to work expanding the claim position, bringing in the data, the historic core. You've got a picture of some of that core just there. That is not core we had to drill, which is marvelous. 2019, we drilled at Iron Mountain and at CZ. 2020, we drilled Chrome Mountain. And that's the cutoff for the resource model. Everything up to 2020 made it into the resource model. In 2021, we drilled our biggest campaign yet, and those are the expansion drill holes that are pending right now. So the upcoming catalysts, drill results, IP results, I would expect the first drill results to be in December here. We're targeting first half of December. And then the last core only recently left the lab. So I think drill results will be sprinkled through even into January or February. But a series of drill results, news release, IP results as well. Agreements on secondary assets. We're in good conversations towards the sale of non-core assets. This is exciting because we don't get any value on the balance sheet for these projects, and yet they're district scale in nature. Each one of them could be the flagship for a junior, in our opinion. We will also be doing metallurgy work, and ESG, we are looking at carbon sequestration in the rocks at Stillwater in particular. We've put out one news release to that effect, and we look forward to further updates on that. Ultimately, in 2022, reluctant to put a date on it, but I would hope it would be by the second quarter or in the second quarter. We will look to publish an updated resource estimate, and that would be this year's numbers plus the very juicy looking core that we drilled this year, which on a visual basis we think makes a nice expansion. There's the market slide. Currently 66 million Canadian market cap, which is low in our opinion, given what we're onto, given the $15 billion in contained gross metal value that we have at Stillwater, also the premium district, and what we think we're onto in terms of size. And then you can factor in non-core assets on top of that as well. Recent share price, 40 cents. We have $4 million of cash in the bank, and we have 13 million of in the money warrants and options. So we're fully funded at our present time to complete everything we need to do and even launch next year's programs. We may consider placements in the spring. We'll see. We certainly want to be at a higher share price before we do anything in that sort of regard. So with that, potential to become a world-class US-based source of battery metals and platinum group elements. The Stillwater West project, very much the focus. There's that summary of the resources again, 1.1 billion pounds battery metals, 2.4 precious. We own it 100%, and it is a district scale asset. It's a top tier US jurisdiction with world-class mineral endowment by our neighbor and a long history of production on our ground as well as on their ground. It's an attractive mix of in-demand commodities. The exploration potential is exceptional. Our portion of the district is underexplored, and yet there is demonstrated scale and grade. We're hitting new magmatic horizons all over the place, and 2020, the IP survey we did last year has been instrumental in guiding us to those high-grade horizons. And once you hit them, they run for kilometers, so it's easy for us to grow ounces and pounds here. We have a substantial database, which was a great blessing in starting this project, and we've developed a predictive geologic model that works very nicely to speed our progress. We have multiple kilometer scale targets, and we have assays pending, as we talked about. In terms of the company, it's an exciting time. We're a growth stage company. We're early on that Lassonde curve with lots of value to add, in our opinion. Excellent teams. We're fully permitted and we're fully funded. We have no debt, and we have 100% ownership on 3 district scale assets. So we're feeling pretty good about things. We're looking forward to getting this news out, getting on to bigger resources and bigger programs next year. I think that's a wrap for my formal part, Wolfgang. Shall we look for some questions, discussion?
Yes, we have to. Mike, first of all, thank you very much for your really great presentation. It looks like you have really a monster asset or project here. Maybe I start with the first question from my side, and we go through the questions from the audience. But if I look at the size of the project of Stillwater West, it seems to me that you can drill here for the next decade. I mean, when do you believe you have enough drill data or activities on the project to really see the scale of the asset? Is it 3 years, 5 years, or even the decade, 10, 12 years?
Yeah, I don't think we would be the ones to drill it out completely. It's more likely we do that with a partner, or it's more likely that would be determined after decades of mining. Should it go across the threshold as a mine? Our job as a junior is to show enough value and secure a reasonable deal within the commodity cycle, frankly. So we're at the beginning right now of a bull. It looks very good. Things are ramping up nicely. We've probably got, as well as me, 5 or 10 years here of increasing prices. We've done successively bigger programs every year. This year's drill program was triple the previous years. We can certainly keep growing on that basis. But at some point, we will look to do that deal, to get married effectively with a bigger partner, either a bigger financial partner that would allow us to do much bigger programs, or maybe it's a major mining company. We have their interest. We've had offers. They tend to be a project deal structure of offer, as you've seen Rio Tinto do with Madison in Montana, and also HPX Ivanhoe has done with the Hog Heaven project in Montana. And that's not what we're looking for. We would be looking more for something that doesn't try to cap the value of this asset. In the short term, that means drilling bigger and bigger programs ourselves, but at some point we will sign the right deal and see this into bigger hands.
So to be clear here, Group 10 Metals will not build another mine next to Stillwater.
It's not impossible with the right backers, but that's also not the usual model. There's a great lift in value that we can give our shareholders in de-risking this, and we see good means to de-risk this, expand it, add metallurgy to that, draw in all those sort of PEA level questions, and then see it off into the hands of somebody who's known for building mines, and that gives a further lift. Whether it's an Ivanhoe, a Sibanye, Rio Tinto, this BHP, this project is worthy of those sort of players from what we've seen.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people in that space say grade is king. I would say size is also king. It looks to me that you have really the size to make those kind of collaboration or deals. I'm 100% convinced. So let's move to the first question I have here on the chat. The question is, what are you doing regarding ESG? Any special explanation you can give our audience?
Sure. Well, we're blessed that our neighbor is strong on ESG. Their Good Neighbor Agreement is a precedent for the industry. Sibanye was actually looking at applying it, I believe, over in South Africa. It's a precedent setter, and it was signed around the year 2000 when the original Stillwater mine was active, and just before they opened the East Boulder mine, 2002. It brought all local communities to the table, legally bound, on an agreement to work together, and things have worked smoothly ever since then. So we're piggybacking on them to some degree. They're well liked. They're one of the biggest employers in the state. They're actually, I think, the highest taxpayer in the state, and operations go smoothly in the local communities, and that's marvelous. Everything's done with respect and communication. On another level of ESG, we are looking at carbon sequestration. We have the right type of rocks to bind CO2 in a process called mineral carbonation. So we're looking at that now. The ultimate objective here would be to pull CO2 from the atmosphere, or perhaps from some of the oil refineries in Billings, right nearby, point source CO2, combine it with the tailings as you put them back in the ground at the end of a mining operation. And on that basis, terrific ESG value, because you're reducing atmospheric carbon, you're offsetting your own footprint in mining, and you're putting carbon permanently away on the ground, possibly even improving the characteristics of the tailings by doing it. That's very exciting to us, and that's something that we're pursuing now.
That's cool, and really important to mention, especially also in this webinar. And I guess it could be a trigger for institutional investors coming in and joining the company as shareholders. Do you agree on that?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, it's certainly, the Stillwater name gets really good attention, and carbon sequestration, absolutely. And yeah, it's entirely possible at Stillwater. We'd be glad to look into it.
So that brings us already to the next question. Do you have already brokerage coverage, analyst coverage? Do you have somebody who has done a research report on the company, or do you expect one soon?
We have a report by Couloir Capital, which is sort of a boutique firm. That's just about to be updated now following the resources, and we're in discussions towards, we're looking for bigger coverage. That sort of thing is what comes next and is possible now that the resources are out. And that would define further growth for the company.
Okay. We have another question showing up regarding the metal in the ground. In the question, it was related to platinum only, but I think you have already mentioned a number. It's $15 billion worth of metal contained in the ground. Is that a correct understanding?
Yeah, that's just a back of the envelope by me, but sure. Yeah, 15 billion US.
Okay, so looking at the next question, the caliber guys like Gordon or David, they recently joined the company. Do you think the size was so excited, or the geology? What do you think? What made them so interested and excited to really join such a, excuse my explanation, it's still a small tuna exploration company?
Well, anytime you put Stillwater and Platreef together, you get people's attention. And then what keeps the conversation going for us is that it actually is real. Those names often get you a meeting, and then a quick look at our database, a quick discussion with the team. People see this is very real, and that resulted in both of these excellent gentlemen joining us, which was marvelous. David, I think it was more intellectual. He's had great success in discoveries, but he's absolutely a geologist at heart, and the thrill of discovery, of unlocking a new puzzle, you know, the more he got into Stillwater, the more he liked what he saw, and we're grateful for his early advice on how to drill this and how to look at it. That was invaluable. Gordon Toll is a friend of some of my board members, and was very attracted to Stillwater and wanted to be part of that asset, and that's the size potential. Gordon has worked in building some of the biggest mines in the world. Stillwater passed all his tests, and he wanted to join the effort, and we were very glad to have him. It's a very balanced board overall in terms of skill sets, and it's good to see.
So we briefly have touched base on this actually current slide, your cash position. If you do a program next year with additional drilling, I guess you have a winter season. It's not a full year-round exploration activity in the region. But assuming you start in the spring next year, what size of exploration program in dollar terms you want to do, and how can you finance it?
Yeah, we would look to do, it's early days because we're still doing our number crunching from this year's. We haven't got the assays yet. But I would like a 10, 15,000 meter program, possibly even 20. We attempted to do a 10,000 meter this year. We could not get a third drill rig. There is a great shortage of drillers, of a variety of laborers, as you've probably seen in the news. So we had 2 rigs. The third rig was there. I didn't announce it, though, because we didn't have drillers for it. So it didn't seem prudent to announce it. We can certainly do a bigger program next year. We certainly have the targets, as you've seen.
And what are the costs per meter? Is it
We're running perhaps $350 per meter all in. So that 10,000 meter program might be $3.5 million. That's perfectly manageable from the 17 million that we currently have visibility towards. At this point, it's down to those warrants and them coming in. We've got a lot of news to drive the share price with. And once we get the end of year malaise past us, any tax loss selling, I don't know if we've got significant at Group 10, but we're under a little bit of pressure for some warrants this week, which are gone as of the 26th of November. So I think starting next week, if the core if the assays come in the way the core looked visually, then I think we have a series of really good news releases into December, January, February for results. Plus some other goodies thrown in for good measure. We feel pretty good about our ability to get the price up, get those warrants in.
Yeah, that's nice, and that's what we want to have for our investor community news flow activities. That's all great. If we don't have any additional questions, I think I make a summary in German. Is there anything you would like to comment as a closing remark, Mike?
No, grateful for the time. Danke, everyone, for taking the time. And please do reach out anytime with questions or comments.
Yeah, I thank you, Mike, for taking the time to make that webinar today with us. And we will also record it, as I said, and it will be out soon so we can even bring that message to much more investors. So I want to say thank you very much, Mike, and I make a quick summary in German. Ja, liebe Gäste, ganz herzlichen Dank für Ihre Teilnahme. Ich denke, der Mike hat schon sehr gut zum Ausdruck bringen können, dass die Stillwater West, das Projekt, die Geologie hier massiv ist in Größe, in Tiefe und dass er halt hier diese Batteriemetalle abdeckt, die sicherlich alle notwendig sind für die Elektrifizierung. Und da kann er massiv punkten. Er ist in den USA eine sogenannte Safe Jurisdiction, also ist ja schon wichtig, wo auch die Materialien herkommen. Ich glaube, auch alle Batteriehersteller müssen mittlerweile etwas umdenken. Kobalt kommt ja überwiegend aus dem Kongo, da schimpft man heute ja Kinderarbeit, ja oder nein. Das sind wirklich ganz wichtige Themen. Und ich glaube, mit einem Projekt in den USA mit exzellenter Infrastruktur, auch neben einer bestehenden produzierenden Mine, ist sicherlich ein riesiger Pluspunkt. Er hat es ja angedeutet, diese Blood Reef-Style Deposits, die man da identifiziert hat, sind halt ganz spezielle Vorkommen mit extrem hoher Tiefe in Vererzung und das bringt letztendlich auch die Größe mit sich. Und wie wir alle wissen, die großen Majors, die großen Produzenten, die suchen ja nicht Kleinstprojekte, sondern die suchen Projekte, wo auch ihre eigene Ressourcen, Reserven, Balance Sheet, also die Bilanz sich verbessert. Und das sind genau diese Projekte wie Stillwater West. Also die Großen müssen hier, glaube ich, an der Tür anklopfen, wenn sie es nicht schon tun. Der Mike hat ja schon signalisiert, da gibt es schon durchaus Interesse und seine Aufgabe ist, mit den News, mit den Aktivitäten, die er noch veröffentlichen möchte, den Wert der Gesellschaft zu heben, um dann vielleicht auch eine andere Art von Finanzierung mit einem größeren Unternehmen, mit einem möglichen Partner aus der Industrie, sei es ein Minenproduzent vielleicht auszuarbeiten, um dann auch letztendlich das Projekt nochmals in Geschwindigkeit und Größe nach vorne zu treiben. Material hat er, glaube ich, genügend und Potenzial auch. Und deswegen sind wir eigentlich auch Aktionär dieser Gesellschaft. Und wir glauben, dass die Group 10 Metals hier noch einiges zu bieten hat. Ich bedanke mich recht herzlich für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit. Und wie gesagt, Informationen sind auf verschiedenen Kanälen erhältlich. Machen Sie sich schlau, brauchen Sie rein in die Informationen, die die Gesellschaft zu bieten hat. Wir glauben, es ist wert, hier die Group 10 Metals auf die Watchlist zu nehmen oder vielleicht sogar auch einzusteigen. Die Newsflows werden kommen und die werden sicherlich auch gut sein. Ich bedanke mich recht herzlich und wünsche Ihnen ein gutes, gesegnetes Weihnachtsfest. Danke. Ciao.